Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tampa Bay Politics. Okay, we're putting the sign up in the studio so you can see that this is our home, also called In Touch News, the home of In Touch newspapers. And our fearless leader is Daryl Johnson. And I am your host, Angela Birdsong. During the day, what I do is I help people with Medicare and sometimes Medicaid, affectionately known as the Medicare lady. But in my spare time, I like to let everybody know what's going on in the Tampa Bay area when it comes to politics and some movers and shakers. And today, we're so happy to have Mr. Leroy Moore from the Tampa Housing Authority. Thank you for coming by.
Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Tampa.
Okay, this is going to be another very, very important and interesting conversation. I hope if you see this tape on Facebook, you'll be sharing it with people you know and love, because what's going on in housing in the Tampa Bay area is so important to so many people. So first of all, we always start from the beginning. Where were you born?
Born and raised, Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis. Some good music come out of there.
Yes. Good music, good barbecue.
All right. So where'd you go to school over there?
Yeah, I was born in South Memphis, Tennessee. And for people who know South Memphis, a very culture-rich community. Went to grade school in South Memphis, moved to Whitehaven, of all places, when I was 13. Graduated from Fairleigh High School, Fairleigh Bulldogs, and went on there to our HBCU, Lemoyne College. For my first year.
Oh, you went to an HBCU?
For my first year.
Okay.
For my first year, and then transferred to, at that time, Memphis State University, now known as University of Memphis, and that's where I completed my undergrad studies.
What did you study?
Architectural Engineering Technology. It was an engineering technology degree, four-year degree, Bachelor of Science, with a concentration in architecture.
Okay, so then what was your first position after that?
Yeah, my first professional position was at the Memphis Housing Authority, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes, indeed.
As an engineer?
As a specifications writer. So that was my first professional position, writing technical specs for contracts and bids that we would put out for housing renovations.
I see. Okay. And how long did you do that for?
Yeah, I was at Memphis for 5 years. After my first year, I was promoted to coordinator of technical services, so I was able to run the department that was responsible for rehabbing the public housing in Memphis. And then I got drafted to run the program in Peoria, Illinois, home of Richard Pryor.
Really?
Yeah, I went to Illinois for 3 years. Got a lot of experience there.
Okay.
And enjoyed my time there. We did some pretty unique stuff, still to this day, and was able to design and build the Housing Authority's administrative office building on a street that eventually became known as Richard Pryor Boulevard.
Okay. They love him there,
Yes,
I'm sure. Now, after you left Peoria, Illinois, where'd you go?
Yeah, got an opportunity to go on the West Coast. So I always wanted to, being a Southern boy, born and raised in Memphis, I always wanted to work up north, and always wanted to work on the West Coast, and always wanted to work in our nation's capital. So the opportunities just kept presenting themselves.
So what city did you end up in then?
Yeah, got a call from Oakland, California about an open position there.
Wow.
And got the job as Director of Modernization and Architectural Services for the Oakland Housing Authority. Moved to Oakland from Peoria, and I was there for almost 4 years, and there was nothing that could have possibly gotten me out of Oakland. Absolutely love that city.
Well, tell me this. Did you have a family along the way?
No, this was just
so you
single
were all
Leroy.
single. Okay, all right.
This was single bachelor Leroy.
Okay.
So I had the ability to just uproot and move as the wind blows.
Okay.
And that was it was a great move for me. Did a lot of growth in Oakland, California. We did a lot of great works in Oakland. That was when the Hope 6 program first premiered in U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We were one of the first Hope 6 awardees, doing some major tear down and build back of public housing communities there. And there was just nothing that I was looking for other than just staying in Oakland until I got a call about the opportunity to work in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
as
Okay.
part of a HUD ordered.
Chocolate City, USA.
Yes, our nation's capital. And that was during the last year of Mayor Barry's administration.
Okay. What a
And-
character, but the people loved him.
And Mayor Barrett, there's a relation to Memphis as well, by the way.
Oh, really? Is he
He's
from
originally
Memphis?
from Memphis.
Oh.
And his mother, at the time I was at Memphis Housing Authority, actually lived in one of our properties at Memphis.
She
Memphis
was
Housing Authority.
living in a housing authority property, and her
Yes.
son was the mayor of Washington, D.C.?
Yes, I mean, she was on fixed income, but this was a really nice property. It was one of our
Okay.
high-rise elderly buildings,
All
and there was
It
absolutely
must have
nothing.
been nice, because I'm sure her son could have done better.
Yes, his son. Well, if she wanted better, but
If she wanted better, so
lived-
that is a
she
great
lived in a
testament
really
to the
nice
property.
area of Memphis and
Okay.
really nice housing.
Okay.
But it was, it was subsidized housing.
That's
But
what
it
we
was
want
for
to
the
hear. Just because, you're low income, you should still live well.
Absolutely. And Elvis Presley lived in Memphis public housing. People don't realize that, but
That's where he started.
Absolutely. He and
Okay.
his family started in public housing in Memphis. So there's absolutely nothing shameful for that. That's an opportunity for people to get
To rise
settled
up.
and rise up and move out and do
Yes.
better. Absolutely.
We want all of our children to do well, no matter what zip code,
For sure.
because you don't know who you've given birth to, right?
You're right. You're right.
That's right. Okay, so how long did you stay in Washington, D.C.?
So in Washington, D.C. for the 3 years of the receivership. So I actually arrived there. That was my opportunity to start my own company. So I started my own
okay.
consulting company, left Oakland, went to Washington, D.C. As part of the advanced team for what would be the court-ordered receivership of the D.C. Housing Authority. It was considered the poorest performing housing authority in the nation at the time, and the
That's
federal
very sad.
courts, yes,
Okay.
the federal courts was literally taking over the agency and putting it under court-ordered receivership. So I was part of the advanced team. They eventually, about 6 months after I arrived there, announced the actual receiver, who was a friend of mine from the West Coast, who used to run the San Francisco Housing Authority. He eventually had gone on
okay.
to Seattle.
Well, I'm sure all you all know each other.
Yeah, so we were able to
Yes.
reunite there in Washington, D.C., and did some great stuff as part of the team to write the Housing Authority. And
So how would you say it is now?
the Housing Authority has gone through a lot of changes there. Now, since then, that was in the mid 1990s.
Okay,
Yes,
we're talking a while back.
that was
Okay.
quite a while ago.
Okay.
So I arrived in D.C. I want to say in 1992, 93, and I left in 95.
Okay.
Yes, so my contract ended. I moved my business to Chicago, and because I was doing a lot of national contracts and national training, and Chicago was a great place to be. Always loved the city, and
What was the state of housing and when you arrived in Chicago?
the Chicago Housing Authority has always been troubled, but it's an incredible undertaking. They have, I think it's 40,000 units.
Oh, wow.
Historically, the federal government has never funded public housing to the level necessary to maintain the units. So housing authorities like Chicago and LA have always struggled with maintaining
With the
its
amount of
properties.
services they have to put out with the limited amount of dollars.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But I got a chance to do a couple of contracts for the Chicago Housing Authority, Atlanta Housing Authority.
Now, what do you
even
mean
Indian
by
housing
contracts?
authorities. I had my own professional consulting company, so I would go in and actually, create a plan or manage a project or train staff or put together a development team for the agency to undertake some major activities.
Okay, so to help them get through some of these difficulties they were having with
Yes,
services.
help them deploy a lot of their resources, deploy and get spent a lot of the federal funding, and get some of their projects started.
Okay, so now we're in Chicago. And then where'd you go from there?
Yes, well, Chicago led me eventually to Atlanta.
Oh,
I
we
had a
still
loan.
didn't get to Tampa yet.
Not
okay,
yet, not yet. We're
Atlanta,
getting close
hot
to Tampa.
Atlanta. You went where all the black people are.
That's
okay.
right. Loved my time in Chicago. Beautiful city. I would move back
That's
if,
Oprah's
if,
town.
if I didn't find Tampa.
Okay.
So from Chicago, I moved to Atlanta. Once again, still running my own professional consulting business. I had a
Okay.
long-term contract with the Atlanta Housing Authority, so I wanted to be on site there, but I was still traveling quite a bit to other regions.
Because you had other clients. Is that
Yes,
it?
yes.
Okay.
One of which became the Tampa Housing Authority.
I see. Okay. So you're in the south part of the country now.
Yes, yeah, that was
Okay.
my return to the South, and
Okay.
it had changed a lot.
Okay. Okay.
So I moved back to Atlanta, or moved to Atlanta for the first time. And other than the work in Atlanta, I didn't really forge a lot of personal satisfaction in Atlanta. Loved Chicago, loved Oakland, and had the opportunity to come to Tampa. Jerome Rhines called me. He had just gotten the assignment here. He needed someone to help him organize the agency and start hiring people. So I came here for a 6-month contract and ended up closing down my business and taking the permanent job here as Director of Modernization. And
So you found home in Tampa, Florida.
and,
Now, how long ago was that?
I started here as an employee in 1998.
Okay, it's been a while.
Yeah. Now, one important thing I probably missed out on, Memphis Housing Authority. At the time I got my very first job in the industry at Memphis Housing Authority, Jerome Rhines was the president and CEO there
Okay.
at the Memphis Housing Authority. I didn't get hired by him, didn't know him at the time, but he subsequently left. I left, and this was sort of like an opportunity to reconnect. So
All right. So Jerome was at the Tampa Housing Authority,
yes,
and he hired you.
yes.
Wow,
Yes.
Interesting. I told
Yes.
you all know each other.
So this is my second time working with Jerome Rhines at my very first job professionally, and the job that I've held for the longest. Been here now in Tampa since 1998,
Wow.
celebrating 22 years, 23 years this year.
Okay. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Now, you started off, what was your first position?
Director of Modernization here.
All right. And
And
then,
we reorganized and combined a few of the departments, and we created more of a corporate structure. So our executive director became the president and CEO. My position became the chief development officer. Development, construction, maintenance services was under me. And then we
Okay.
had a chief operating officer that oversaw all the operating departments, the programs, the services, as well as finance and accounting. And then after about 2 years, we merged the COO and the CDO position into my current position as Chief Operating Officer, Senior Vice President.
okay, so that is your position right now.
Yes, and that was about 12 years ago now. So I've been in that role for about 10, 12 years.
Okay, and a lot has been happening since then. Now, if anyone has any questions, concerns about the housing in Tampa, would you like them to call you?
Absolutely. Love to hear
What's
from
your number?
The number that they can reach me.
Yes.
813, and this is my cell number.
Wow.
And a lot of people use that, so feel free to use it. That's always the best way to reach me, and it also allows me to text you if I can't answer. But 813-267-7726. 813-267-7726. Leroy Moore.
Wow. Okay. And an email too. Would you like emails?
Yes, email would be leroy.moore, that's LEROY.MOORE at THAFL.com.
Say that one more time.
LEROY.MOORE at THAFL.com.
Well, that's important because you have one of the issues that people are most concerned about right now. Because we got COVID going on, and even before COVID, we had a lot of issues with housing.
Right, affordable housing in particular. And affordable housing has always been a scarce commodity, and it's made worse, during recessions. It's made worse certainly during the pandemic.
So when we come back, we got some issues to talk about.
Look forward to it.
jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
We're back, and just in case you're just joining us, I'm Angela Birdsong, your host every week on Tampa Bay Politics, and I have the pleasure of talking about housing with Leroy Moore from the Tampa Housing Authority. So, Mr. Leroy Moore, what are we going to do about housing, affordable housing in Tampa?
Well, we got to keep at it. We've got to keep doing all we are doing, and we've got to get out there and vote more. Get out there and
really? Who do you think they
advocate
should
more.
vote for?
I can't tell you who to vote for, and I never do. And,
All right. I can tell
and
you.
I stay out of the politics by all means. I stay out of the politics. It's a bad, bad place to be because we have to work with Republican administrations. We have to work with Democratic administrations.
That is true.
Once you in your profession choose sides, you will see a lot of dry years and you will see a lot of abundant years, and we like to keep our services flowing as disrupted as possible, and we do
that
that
let me ask
by
you
staying
one
out
question
of the politics.
though. We on the Board of County Commission. How are you working with them? Is that working out for you?
Yeah, we work with the city of Tampa. We work with Hillsborough County, BOCC, City Council incredibly well. We always have. For 23 years, I can say we've always had a great relationship with both bodies, both elected bodies, and we always try to be responsive. And we always advocate for the funding we need, the programs we need, the regulatory support we need. I will bring up in particular for the BOCC, just
which is
last
the Board of
week,
County Commission.
The Board of County Commissioners just last week adopted a countywide law, which was just incredible to see it get the kind of support it got, which I believe it passed 5-1.
Okay.
And it effectively is known as generally the Tenants' Bill of Rights.
Okay.
Many other jurisdictions around the city, around the county, around the state, around the country have tried to adopt a Tenants' Bill of Rights. And by the time it gets to the final vote, it usually gets diluted. And when I say diluted, I'm talking about the income source protection language in a Tenant Bill of Rights, which prevents landlords from discriminating against individuals because of their form of income. That's usually the thing that's extracted from the bill before it's passed because of the advocacy from Bay Area Apartment Association, Tampa Bay Realtors, and others.
Okay, we're just going to get real with this conversation. There are landlords who do not want to take people who are on Section 8.
Absolutely.
That's a problem.
And by law, they have always been able to say just that. We don't accept Section 8.
Okay.
And this Tenants' Bill of Rights that was passed, which includes the income protection restrictions, prohibits landlords from discriminating against individuals because of their form of income.
Thank you, Mariella Smith, Commissioner Mariella Smith, because she was doggedly in support of that legislation.
Yes, Commissioner Smith, as well as others, met with us early and frequent to get our input on it. And we give her our honest opinion. The idea that you discriminate against individuals because of Section 8, but you don't discriminate against individuals because they've got a rich uncle. If an individual needs help to pay that rent and they've got a rich uncle versus a Section 8 subsidy, what's the difference? You should not be able to discriminate on the grounds of the source of income. And in Hillsborough County now, which includes the city of Tampa,
okay,
you can no longer. So I'm sure the enforcement is going to be the next hurdle, but it's now the law of the land, and it needs to be enforced.
Well, I'm going to say that there are some Section 8 tenants who have given Section 8 a bad name. And I think that every family should stand on their own merits.
Angela, but there are trust fund babies who've given, people bad names as well. So
Anybody can trash the apartment.
that's right. That's absolutely right.
All right. Well, if someone suspects that the landlord doesn't want to take them because they're Section 8, what's their recourse?
Honestly, I don't know just yet because
Okay.
this is a new law of the county. I don't know when the enforcement goes into place. I don't know what,
Okay, but it's a step in the right direction,
Absolutely.
especially during a global pandemic,
Absolutely.
because we need people housed,
Right.
and we don't need any foolishness about we can't get them a roof over their head.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but the dreaded word is gentrification,
Yes.
especially in our black communities. People are irate over this.
Yeah, and no, we need to talk about it. I wish
Okay.
we talked about it more.
All
I wish
right.
there was more public forums and discussion over gentrification and its impact and how to avoid the worst side effects of gentrification. Gentrification itself is the natural change in a community. There are negative aspects of gentrification that needs to be avoided. And essentially that is replacing a population, ethnic population or low-income population in order to move in a, different ethnic, population
Higher income.
or higher income population. That's the bad parts of gentrification that needs to be arrested, needs to be prevented. And the best way to prevent it, frankly, is for the individuals who own it not to sell it, but to figure out other ways of maintaining control, maintaining owner interest, and maintaining your home.
That's a very interesting thing you're bringing up, because a lot of times the grandparents buy the property. Then you have the children come along. They live in the property. By the time you get to the grandchildren, they will take the highest offer.
Yes. Yeah, and you don't want to, in one hand, I guess some individuals look at it as their opportunity to build wealth, but if they look at it long term, you build wealth through owning, maintaining control, and benefiting through the long term appreciation of it, not selling for today's big dollar. Because you can have that big dollar over the next few years, and your generations after you and after them can continue to benefit from it.
What we might have to do is start going into the communities and educating them on keeping your community intact.
Yeah, well, we need more people doing that, I think. I mean, we certainly at the Housing Authority have always done that.
Okay.
For years ahead of a major redevelopment in our communities, in the surrounding communities, we have meetings. We'll attend everybody's committee or
Neighborhood
organization or
associations.
association meetings that want us there.
Okay.
And we let people know what's about to happen in that community and what that's going to do to the surrounding community in terms of building the appeal for it. And if you own land, keep it. Maintain your ownership. If you want to sell and you get to that point of wanting to sell, come to us first. So if we're able to acquire it, at least we can own it and preserve it for affordable housing, which is our mission.
That's a very interesting concept.
Right. But the main thing is to own it. If you own the barbershop, down the road, don't sell it so that you can move into Brandon or another part of the community. Stay invested in that community. Even if you end up doing ground leases for it, you retain long-term ownership of it, and you get the appreciation that property is going to go through instead of someone else.
Yeah, this is education that the communities need, because we have the West Shore area.
Yes. West Tampa.
West Tampa.
West Tampa.
We have Seminole Heights is going through this, and these people are getting door knocks, phone calls from realtors daily. It's almost harassment. Yes.
No, and it's in every community, trust me.
Okay.
but West Tampa in particular, I think, has been the focus over the last 5 years. But 8 years ago, we were in the community talking about what we're getting ready to do. We were urging people, if you don't own land, buy it. If you're renting now, try to buy it. If you own it, continue to own it. But realize that what we're going to do in the 44 acres that the Tampa Housing Authority owns is, we don't worry about the 44 acres that we own because we're going to continue to own it. We're going to bring back more units than what's ever existed there. And we're going to bring back other services in that community that we will own as well. But the person who lives across the street, the business owner that, owns a property down the street, realize that your property is going to be made far more valuable by the investment we're getting ready to put along Main Street.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the properties that you have invested in. What's going on Main Street?
Wow, Main Street is transforming. The Housing Authority owns 44 acres, formerly North Boulevard Homes, Tampa's very first public housing community. And we tore down 670 units. So remember these numbers, please.
Okay.
We tore down 670 units. We just completed the demolition of those 670 units 2 years ago. So here we are 2 years later. We already have 310 new units back online and occupied.
Okay,
new
wonderful.
Units that we own. We have another 500 units under construction as I speak that will come online later this year.
So now we're up to
3 more
800.
buildings. And we have 3 more buildings funded. 1 more that will start construction this month.
Okay.
All total, as of today, 2 years after the demolition completed, we have 1,011 units that we will own that's either completed, under construction, or about to start, already funded. And we're not done yet. In addition to that, we're under contract with Florida's grocer of choice to build a grocery store on part of our land.
What grocer would that be?
I can't mention the name.
Okay. All right.
But we're also under contract with 2 other parties. One
I'm just
to
excited
build
that people can
townhomes.
buy groceries.
Yes, in the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood.
And once again, the reason we bring grocers to the neighborhood, the reason we bring ownership opportunities to the neighborhood, the reason we bring restaurants and other retail venues into the neighborhood is because it reduces your need to get in a car and drive 5 miles or more for those basic everyday services. And when you reduce a person's transportation costs, you're really not now starting to impact affordable living.
All right. So when we come back, we're going to talk about some other projects that you have besides Main Street and maybe what you're doing for the future.
Yes.
All right. We'll be right back.
So believe me, 100 down, it went 3, 2, 4, 8, 6,300. Everything gon' be okay, call Ricky, he coming. He take the kids to the floor to grab a pin of sundown. 184, 361, Rick. That's 184, 361, 425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, push your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184, 361, Rick. Call Ricky, ask Ricky. Medical referral services. The doctors and lawyers on our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here-for-you.
With Mr. Leroy Moore from the Tampa Housing Authority. And we were talking about Main Street, which I did not realize was the first set of affordable housing in Tampa. And so it's looking good, huh?
Yes, North Boulevard Homes was, I want to say, almost 80 years old when we
I've
tore
been
it
in some
down.
of those units. They looked at,
No air conditioning,
wow.
environmental contaminants, poor, parking and ventilation and, barrack style,
Yes, not
institutional
attractive at all
looking
either.
housing.
Yeah. All right. So now you're up to 1,100 units.
Yeah, and we've got more units to fund and start at the former North Boulevard home site, is now known as West River.
Okay.
So just on the 44 acres that used to contain North Boulevard homes, at full build-out, we will have over 2,200 units
Okay.
occupying that exact same land.
Whole lot better than 600.
Yes, plus a new grocery store, restaurants and other retail venues, office buildings, possibly a hotel.
Wow.
So it's a mini city.
Okay.
And it's walking distance to downtown, our
Yes.
second largest job market. It's walking distance to 4 schools. We've got
Wonderful.
4 public schools within walking distance. We've got a university within walking distance, UT.
True. The University of Tampa.
And you've got the Riverwalk and all the amenities and all the cultural attractions of downtown within a walk or a bike ride, as opposed to a necessary car ride away. That's the place you can live, you can work, you can play, you can prosper, and you can do it more affordably than moving further away from all of these amenities and jobs and spending most of your money on a car to get you to the jobs or get you to the amenities and parking and maintenance and gas, etc. People don't realize it, but some people spend 40 and even 50% of their income on transportation costs.
Wow. Well, it takes about $10,000 to maintain a car
Yes.
when you add up everything.
Absolutely.
Now, tell me, when you call this, would you call this property affordable? Would you call it low income? Who can actually live there?
It's mixed income.
Okay.
So it's mixed income. Now, the affordable numbers are going to double from where they were.
Okay.
So instead of 820 units, we'll have 1,600 affordable units. And this affordability will actually be a deeper affordability than what was there. Public housing is eligible to people making below 80% of area median income.
Okay. Nobody knows what that means.
I know. And just to put some numbers to it, a family of 4 area median income is something like $56,000 a year for a family of 4.
Okay.
So 80% of that, 47,000 or whatever the math comes to, you must make less than 47,000 if
To
you're a
live there.
family of 4 to live in public housing. In the affordable units that we're building, because we're using tax credit subsidy to build back formerly public housing units, these units are affordable to people below 60% of area median income, which is an even deeper subsidy.
So what are we talking, like 30,000 then?
Yeah, so you get to about $38 to $40,000 for a family of 4. For an individual, that number could be around $12,000 to $15,000.
Okay.
Okay. But in addition to that, we then layer in some additional affordable units known as workforce housing. So those
Which is another big issue.
Yes, those are individuals that actually work service-related jobs, but they can't afford home costs in the areas where they typically work. You
Correct.
take your downtown office workers, your chefs, your musicians in Ybor City, your wait staff, people that park your cars at the hotels. I mean, that service
Our
industry.
essential workers.
Essential workers who make just above 60%, but they make less than 120% of area median income.
And
So-
so if someone is making minimum wage,
Mm-hmm.
can they afford to live there?
Not unless they live in one of our units. They cannot
That's what I mean, in
afford
your
to live there.
units.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
So they're making
practically the only place you can live
If
in
you're making
downtown
$7.25 an
Channelside
hour.
area is in housing authority, or there's other affordable housing developers other than the housing authority. There's a number of them that have very nice units, brand new construction that's happened in and around downtown, but it's very small numbers, 100 units here, 100 units there. The housing authority is the only large supplier of affordable housing in the urban core.
Now, are you open to having more contractors come in to build housing?
Oh, absolutely. We're partnering with people all the time.
Okay.
I mean, that's how we've accomplished, the success that we have is by creating these partnerships with private sector developers and contractors to help in supplying this community affordable housing.
Now, what about Blue Sky? Is that one of your partners?
Yes. Blue Sky is a very good quality developer. Their offices are located right across the street from us.
Where are you? You're in West Shore?
We're located on Cypress Street, and they're
Okay.
located right across the street from us now, and they build very good quality tax credit housing.
How many units would you say they've built so far?
I'm not the best person to ask, but I know of several. I know of. I really couldn't give you a guess, but their typical developments is anywhere from 100 to 120 units in size.
Okay.
Right. And I know of probably 4 or 5, maybe more, within the county that they have developed.
Okay. So the thing is, if someone right now needs an affordable unit, how do they go about applying for it?
Well, there's a FloridaHousingSearch.org. I think the website is FloridaHousingSearch.org. They can email me. I can send them a list of not only how to apply for our units when the wait list opens up.
Okay, so right now there is no wait list.
Yeah,
They
there's
can join.
wait lists, and there are some wait lists that are open. And without trying to get too in the weeds on this, the housing authorities units that are funded through the Department of Housing and Urban Development have wait lists.
Okay.
These are federally controlled, structured wait lists, and those wait lists will get filled up. We close the wait list, and that wait list could be closed for 10 years in certain cases. And when we deplete the number of applicants on it, we open up the wait list again. Usually in 1 week, we will get over 10,000 people applying for our wait list when we open up a wait list. But we have wait lists for 1-bedroom units, 2, 3, 4, 5-bedroom units. We have wait lists for special programs such as Section 8 tenant-based vouchers. We have, if you're a veteran, we have VASH vouchers. These are Section 8 vouchers. So there's a lot of different types of wait lists. There's an elderly wait list for people that are 62 and older. And then there's an elderly 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom wait list. And all this is federally controlled and structured. So when we deplete our elderly 1-bedroom wait list, we open up that wait list. And that wait list will remain open until we get a number of people that apply. We'll close the wait list again. So you have to go to our main website, click on, find housing, and that'll take you to our wait list. If you're not already registered, you'll register. You'll go in and you'll see if you can actually fill out an application online for any of our open wait lists. We have wait lists currently open for senior 1 and 2-bedroom units. We have wait lists open for what's called the Mainstream Voucher Program, which is a program specifically for non-elderly disabled persons who also have a homeless condition. Okay?
Wow,
so
that's
it
pretty
can get
specific
very
right there.
specific, but that's the nature of the federal funding that we receive. So we have to find that individual who's not elderly, meaning they're below 62. They have to have a disability that is documented, and that's not always a physical disability. It could be an emotional disability. It could be, life skill development issue. And you must have a housing preference, meaning that you must have a homeless preference, meaning that you currently do not have a lease in your own name. You're living with a relative, or you're living, unfortunately, in your car or in and out of homeless housing. That's a very shoehorned, specific criteria, but there's vouchers available for that population, and you can actually apply during this time by going to our wait list and actually completing an application.
So if you are a homeless family, can you get on a wait list?
If you meet the conditions of the mainstream program, yes, meaning somebody has got to have a documented disability.
Otherwise, no.
Otherwise, no. And all of our other wait lists are closed currently.
Now, what about your other partners like Blue Sky? Do you know if they have openings?
Yeah, they typically don't maintain wait lists, tax credit developers.
Okay.
But, when they bring on board a new 100-unit development, they'll usually open up applications. And, the first qualified 100 people or so, and they may maintain 5 or 10 people as on notice if they have a vacancy that comes available. But they do not have federally mandated wait lists like a housing authority has.
I see. Now, what can you do to get more developers to come here to Tampa with low-income housing?
Yeah, and Blue Sky is not the only one. I mean, there's there's a number of other developers we work with related. We're working with now. They're a huge partner in our West River development. Bank of America CDC has been a huge partner of ours at Encore. We're working with a developer now in partnership on our Robles Park redevelopment, which is going to be the next and the last traditional, public housing community to come down.
So is that going to be totally demolished?
Yes.
Okay.
And we will rebuild that community. There'll be about 1,000 units replacing the 400 units that are there now as part of Robles Park Village. And that's a very active planning process now. We have a architect and a developer, PMG, that is our master planning team that's going to be delivering later this month, early next month, the final master plan for that development.
Okay.
You will see the Housing Authority starting to meet with our families, dealing specifically with relocation, probably.
I was just going to ask, what do you do with the families in the meantime?
Yes. So now they've been very involved in the master planning process. So we've been having ongoing meetings both on site as well as virtually, with our residents, with the broader community, with other stakeholders. So, that's a very participatory process. There's a great website you can go to if you have not been part and been engaged in that master planning process. It's called newroblespark.com. newroblespark.com.
And we have a question.
We do. What's your role for East Tampa?
Yes, we own 850 units in East Tampa now in partnership with Michael's Development, another developer, and that's what used to be known as College Hill Homes, Ponce de Leon. It's now Belmont Heights, phases 1, 2, and 3. 2 of those 3 phases is going to be undergoing some major renovations starting this year, phases 1 and 2. We will be doing some major renovations that'll be taking place over the next 18 months or so. Families will be relocated on site. They will not have to leave the site at all, but we will create vacancy hotel units. We will move them out for about 2 weeks, renovate their unit, move them back into their apartment in those 2 phases.
I see. All right. So, we really, really need some more housing developed.
We need a lot more housing developed. I mean, we have over 20,000 people sitting on our wait list today.
So that's a problem.
Yes, and that's not a real indication of the number of people that need affordable housing because remember, that is a closed wait list. So if we left our wait list open, we will have well over 100,000 people on the wait list, but it gives people a false sense of help coming when you've got that many people sitting on a wait list. That's a 30-year-long wait list, and that's just unbearable. So we try to maintain our wait list below 20,000 people because we can typically go through that number of people in about 5 years or more.
All right. So the people on the list right now, 5 years at least.
Some of them will be waiting 5 years for housing.
Wow. Okay, well, we're going to come back, and we got more things to talk about when it comes to housing in Tampa. Housing in Tampa.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661. All you sports fans, tune in every Monday morning to listen to Mic'd Up Mondays with Michael Clayton. You don't want to miss this.
On In Touch Radio.
We're back with a very important conversation about Tampa housing. We have Mr. Leroy Moore from the Tampa Housing Authority. He's been there 22 years.
Yes.
And he's still signing up for more.
Yes, and I'm still celebrating. I mean, this has been a great opportunity for me, an incredible amount of potential that I saw here 23 years ago, and today I still use those same terms. There's a lot of potential, in Tampa for doing more. And getting
What about
more done.
COVID? How's that affected your properties?
Yes, COVID has been a major impact on us operationally as well as on our finances, of course. Operationally, the Housing Authority has been closed to the general public for the most part since about May of last year.
Okay.
Our employees have always worked. They continue to work. For the first 2 months of the pandemic, we were pretty much all working remotely.
Okay.
In June, we brought our staff back. We still have a portion of our staff, administrative staff, that work from home. So about 40% of our workforce currently is still working from home, but most of us returned to the office late June, early July, after we made a lot of improvements to our office environment to create social distancing opportunities, limiting the number of people in the elevators, making sure that PPEs are applied and available for all of our staff, testing all of our staff. On our property, same thing, getting testing available to our site for our residents that wanted to get tested. And even now, getting the vaccine on our properties has been a very major focus of ours for the last 2 months, is working in partnership with the health department, working in partnership with Tampa Family Health Centers to actually get locations on our properties that is delivering the vaccinations and getting that information to our families so that they can.
And we love Tampa Family Health because
Yes.
if you do not have the money, they will still service you.
Absolutely. And all of the testing and all of the vaccinations that we've been able to bring to our sites has been at absolutely no cost to our families who live on our properties. And you hear stories and you see, even in Tampa, people literally lining up in vehicles, waiting 4 hours to get a test or to get a vaccination. Our families actually have the ability to literally walk out their door and walk a few steps away to a community building or come downstairs on their elevator and get their vaccination right in their own building. So it's an amazing opportunity. You know, our max wait has been probably 15 minutes for people
That's amazing.
waiting to get tested or to get the vaccinations over the last month since we've been delivering them.
Did you have any large outbreaks in the property?
No, we have not documented a single outbreak on the property. We've had residents that have actually come down with the virus and have notified us, you know, in case we had to make maintenance, services in their units, that someone in the unit has COVID. And we've been able to respond to emergencies. We've been able to respond to a lot of our routine services because, you know, our staff has remained healthy for the most part. Our communities have remained healthy for the most part, but we have not had any either work outbreak or outbreak documented on any of our properties.
Wonderful.
With the spread. We've increased security, we've increased information and just, you know, notification to families about gatherings and social events and you know, trying to keep down the crowds so that we can keep down the spread.
Now, are you evicting people?
We're not evicting people due to non-payment of rent. And we officially stopped that even before the CDC moratorium came out.
Okay.
And the nature of our housing is such that as our families lose their job or they have a reduction in their income, their rent is also reduced. That's the way it works. That's the way it works in our housing. That's not the way it works in tax credit housing or other affordable housing.
Oh,
But in the housing authorities units, because it's government subsidized, because it's either project-based Section 8, tenant-based Section 8, or public housing, or now RAD units, they all work the same way. Your rent is always 30% of your income.
Okay.
When your income drops, you simply notify us. We make the adjustment in your income, and you will never pay any more than 30% of your income in rent. If you don't have any income, then your rent goes down to zero, or minimum rent, which is $25, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So our families are naturally protected because of an incident like a recession or a pandemic. But beyond that, it's just a matter of making sure that our families continue to comply. Criminal behavior won't be tolerated on any of our properties. So we have continued with enforcement activities, whether it's criminal, illegal borders, and those matters, but not due to non-payment of rent.
Now, if someone is arrested, goes to jail, does their time, can they live in your housing?
Yes, they can. There is a process. We have it has to be documented, and there are some limitations for felony arrests and how long they have been out. But we give consideration to all of those. We talk to parole officers and counselors and case managers to document, a path of rehabilitation or pattern of rehabilitation before we deny an individual solely based on their arrest record.
Now, what else do you have coming up that's new units?
Yeah, certainly a lot more that's coming up in West Tampa as part of our West River development. Like I said, we have 1,011 units already funded, under construction, or completed there. We've got, more units coming online there in 2022 and 2023. We'll eventually, over the next 3 years, get up to 2,200 units at that site. As we move into just 2 miles north of downtown is Robles Park Village. We're completing the master plan now. We will start probably fourth quarter of this year relocation.
Okay.
That would be the earliest that we will start relocation, and that could be impacted by the pandemic as well if we don't get on the other side of this fairly soon. But once we can start, once we can fund it and safely start a relocation process, we'll start that at Robles late this year, early next year. The relocation process at Robles will take a full year.
Okay.
We haven't yet decided if we're going to do phased relocation or a one-phase relocation like we have done at all of our other properties. We will make that decision in consultation with our residents as we start having the relocation meetings. And then we will follow the relocation by demolition at Robles and then build back at Robles. Right now, we're looking at a master plan that's going to call for a little over 900 replacement units to replace the 400 units that exist there now.
Okay.
And that will be about a 5 to 7 year build out. So about 5 to 7 years from now, you'll see that unit, that whole community transformed.
It's a good thing. Well, I've been to Robles too.
Yes.
Now, what about Tampa Park Apartments? Is that something you're involved in?
We have been involved only because we have subsidized some of the units, and we actually inherited a lot of the relocating families when HUD terminated the contract. But the Housing Authority has never owned or maintained or managed Tampa Park. I know the owners of Tampa Park. I applaud them for the kind of negotiations that they've made to facilitate a redevelopment of that community, and in particular, the decision to maintain ownership of a good chunk of that land. We were talking earlier about gentrification.
Yes.
Selling out and leaving, for a lot of cash. In their case, it was an incredible offer that they got. They actually was able to sell a portion of that site for more than we're selling the lots for at Encore. So that was some good negotiations. And in addition to that, they only sold half of the land, and they now have the rest of the property that they can redevelop on their own. I don't know what their plans are with the rest of the property, but, that's an opportunity, and that's the kind of, shrewd business deals that, our communities should be negotiating
Now,
in
there was
order
a
to
lot of
allow
upset
for
because
development to take place.
excuse me, the people were being asked to leave.
I think the relocation process could have been handled a lot better, without a doubt. And, I don't know all the details about the relocation process. The very first round of relocation, the Housing Authority was involved, and this was 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
Because HUD abruptly terminated the contract on part of Tampa Park.
Okay.
And that meant that those families became our families. We were able to put Section 8 vouchers in all their hands, and we were able to assist them with being relocated.
I see.
But there's a second half of Tampa Park, that was not a HUD termination, but it was an owner opt-out of the program, which did not result in the federal government giving us Section 8 vouchers to put in the hands of all of those families. So those families, fortunately, the buyer, and I had never seen this happen before either.
Okay.
And again, I think this was the quality of the negotiations that was taking place between the seller and the buyer. Both the buyer, who was, I think, conscious about, the visual of uprooting a large minority population because they wanted to build market rate properties, but also a seller who understands that these families need to be provided for. So they were able to negotiate some good funding, both from Hillsborough County to support the relocation, as well as some funding from the buyer to help with the relocation. So from what I saw in the papers with the second phase, relocation, it was handled in a shrewd manner, although I'm sure there was some disappointments with the notifications and the rush in some case in getting families out of the property.
Now, you know what? If someone has a property and they want to consider selling it to Tampa Housing Authority, who would they contact?
Contact me.
Oh,
Leroy
that would
Moore.
be you.
Leroy Moore
How
at
can they get you again?
thafl.com. I can get the ball rolling. And again, we're not looking generally for properties to acquire, but when we are redeveloping, our communities, we want to acquire the edges if the property owners are in a sell mode. I've said from day one, if people live next to our property, hold your property, own it long term. There are city programs and services and grants, forgivable grants, that homeowners and property owners can apply for to improve the quality of their properties. But look at other means. If you get to the point to where you are ready to sell that property, at least come to the Housing Authority, give us an opportunity to make you an offer on it so that we can actually include it in our affordable housing program.
So, in other words, you're saying if you're near Encore, if you're near
West River and Robles,
this man wants to talk to you about your property.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. This was an exciting and needed conversation.
Oh, we're done?
Can you believe that?
Okay.
Yeah. You thought an hour was good. A long time. It's not. Not when you're talking about something like this. That's important for the people. Say your number one more time.
Yes, Leroy Moore, Leroy.Moore at thafl.com, or my cell phone number is 813-267-7726.
And he is willing to talk to you. Thank you for listening to another episode. See you next week.